Yeah.
Is there a way to create user-created trips? Because if there is, I haven't figured it out either on the site or on the app.
You can leave tips at any place.
Not tips, trips.
We had something like that.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, she asked if there's a way to create user-created like lists of data. We had something like that, and it's all part of this new redesign we're working on. That's all I can say for now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Where's the money in the equation aside from venture capital?
So we want to. One of the ideas that Dennis and I have been talking about for a long time is to create a local platform for local businesses, right? You're going out to interact with these stores. You're going out to interact with other real people. There's a lot to be done there, where you can reward people not just with these badges and these tips, but you can reward them with real life things, right? We always like saying go do something in real life, get a virtual currency, get like a little badge or something like that, and then turn it back into something in real life, right? So, for instance, for a few months or so, we had this deal with Starbucks where if you're a Starbucks mayor, you could get a $1 off a drink. There are a whole bunch of other specials related to that. None of these specials are coupon-based, right? So the idea is basically going back to the original. You do something and you get something. And we're kind of training people to do that. So all the specials that we have in the system, which is probably around 12 or 15,000 now, you go somewhere enough times, or you go somewhere for the first time, or whatever it might be, whatever that unlock strategy might be, and you get something in return immediately. So
is this a revenue-based model for you for Foursquare?
We basically want to get to a point where we create a platform that makes it easy for businesses to see who their customers are, and customers to get something out of the business for frequenting them, right? And we want to be in that middle. So that's where I guess the revenue would come in.
For you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. You, sir.
Yeah, I can't resist asking this. Have any real or imagined crimes been solved by people getting called or somebody's Foursquare data?
Crimes that have been solved? I don't think so. All the data is only available to yourself, so it's not. Your history is not available to anyone else. Yeah.
Just a comment. It's actually we've done the reverse, where we couldn't find something and we would retrace our.
I was just going to say that. So people have often written in. They forgot. How many of you forgotten a credit card somewhere? Yeah. People always forget their credit cards, and they've written in to us and they've said, "I left my credit card in some bar last night, and you guys helped me trace it down because I logged everything that I went to." That's the closest crime that I can do. Yes. We've run a couple of experiments where the points. So the way the points work are these very arbitrary things, right? We realized that the mayorship or something like that status is only a few people get, and that kind of rotates every once in a while. The badges are something you get, but you only get them every once in a while, maybe once every 2 weeks, or depending on how you unlock it. So we needed something in between to get you to do the in-betweens, right? How do you get to 2 weeks worth of check-ins? We have to give you something. And that's where the points come in, because every time you check in, you could potentially get some points. So the points actually were designed to go into a leaderboard. At the end of the week, you'd see how you did against your friends, and at the end of the week, it would expire, because we wanted you to start over. It would expire because we wanted to make it easy for new users to come in and also compete in the game, right? Imagine going to an arcade, and you're like, oh, I want to get on the leaderboard, but there's no way you're going to get on the leaderboard to Pac-Man, because the points never reset. So we decided it has to be a little bit more transient than that. So that's why we introduced those mechanics into the point system. The points really didn't mean anything for a while, and then we had 2 experiments where the points actually were translated into real-world currency of some sort. In December, Pepsi sponsored the leaderboard. So for every point that anyone in the city got, I think Pepsi donated 2 cents or 3 cents to this charity. And we did the same thing with PayPal at South by Southwest. So we've been experimenting at various stages in doing that. In the future, we're working on this thing we're calling Point 2.0, which I can't really say too much about, but it's basically redesigning a lot of the thinking. The points are too transient. The points don't, mean anything after a while. The points lead to cheating, because anytime you set up a global leaderboard, people are always trying to game the system to get ahead. It's just too hard for us to keep up with that kind of stuff. So we're working on fixing up all of those flaws, and I think we have a good system in place. You should see it soon. Yes.
Because the audience is primarily urban, what are your plans for kind of expanding to more rural areas?
Yeah. So Foursquare's the question was, because the audience is primarily urban, what are you doing to expand everywhere else? Foursquare has been available everywhere in the world since December, January. Initially, when we launched it, we decided to focus just on urban areas, on big cities. So we'd launched batches of cities in a row. It just got to be too time-consuming, so we just said, let's just open up the floodgates and make it a crowdsourced effort. So you would go in and add your own places and kind of refine the system. And the reason we did that was because we had so much demand. But the original idea was basically to focus on big cities, because big cities naturally lend themselves to this type of situation. There are more people, there are more locations. This kind of activity is just much more dense and much more frequent. As we move forward and as we think about all these other things, we're thinking about introducing specific badges for exploring other parts, rural approaches, right? We're thinking about bringing more value to local tips. I drive through central Connecticut somewhere, I have no idea what's going on. I should be able to get tips not only from my friends, but from super users in that area, for instance, just so I learn from others that might be local. So we're slowly tweaking it to fit those things into place. Yeah?
How do you verify someone actually checking in that they're actually there, or they're...
All the official apps keep track of your lat long in the background, so they tell you the lat long. So because you can't cheat the phone's lat long unless you're, well, for the most part, the average user can't cheat the phone's lat long. The phone's lat long is actually reported every time you check in. So we know exactly how far away you were. And that's how we kind of get around that problem. Yeah.
If you're a publisher and you're trying to publicize books, for instance, and maybe you have author signings or you want to get the name of books out there, what kinds of ways could you use Foursquare without having to create a special badge to kind of get the word out or generate interest or
Yeah, I would say two different things. One of them is something that I think we've noticed a lot of politicians do. So politicians, especially as election season's coming up, have been going around checking into various places and letting their constituents know that they're going to be speaking at something, or they like a certain restaurant, or they just wanted to let everyone know that they visit their town. So they leave tips and they check in and they make that public to all of their followers. So there's something there, I think. And the second part is the idea I mentioned before, is to either use the author's voice as the character's voice to leave tips about the real world. And those are tips that people can actually follow and make use of, right? I can think of a ton of celebrities. I would love to follow Robert De Niro in New York City, right? I would love to see all of his tips and all the different things that he loves to do. But I'd also love to follow any one of his characters that he's played, because they've been in New York, they've been in all these big cities, and I'd love to kind of see what their perspective might have been, right? I hope that answered it. Yeah. Those are probably the two biggest things that I personally be interested in. Yeah.